this video, we are going to look at Laravel 11, and what we're going to look at is Laravel 11 project setup, authentication, and profile display. So we're going to look at just several things which were introduced in Laravel 11. Now, for example, when you look at this application here, basically this is just an authentication whereby you can be authenticated and then you can be able to see different profiles of different individuals. So this is what we call the Laravel Breeze. So we're going to learn how to install it within Laravel 11. And then of course we're able now to authenticate different profiles. So you can see here, this is the dashboard for Laravel 11. So when I log in into this application, then I can, so once I'm logged in, so this is the place for logged in. So this is the dashboard here. And then when you click on the profile, you are able to see the different profile, for example, profile information of the individual. And you can also update the password as well as delete the account. Now, to see, for example, what I just had before, this is my profile. And then, of course, we are able to see different profiles of individuals. Now, this is not just what we're going to look at. For example, when you look at the Laravel 11 documentation, you can see we have middleware, for example. So we're also going to learn how to create a custom middleware and then be able to apply it within our given routes. We are going to look at creating custom middleware as well as also looking at the global middleware. We're also going to look at it as well. All right, so we're also going to look at some other things, for example, the config files which were introduced, that is, which were, some of them were slashed out. So we have few files, and then we're going to look at different things. And then of course, bootstrap/app.php, which was also made one of the important files in Laravel 11. We're also going to look at it, whereby you can register your middleware and so forth. And then we're also going to look at some other few items within Laravel 11. So watch this video until the end so that you're able to learn all this. So let's get started. Now I'm in my Laravel 11. Now I'm in my text editor. And here we are going to install Laravel 11. And before we do that, you need to check the PHP that you have. So currently, for example, when I check mine here, that is by typing PHP, then this, the V sign, the version that is, you can see mine is PHP 8.2.0.0. Now, what you need to know is that for you to use Laravel 11, you need to have PHP 8.2 or later. And then from there, we can now get started. So to install Laravel 11, especially I'm using XAMPP, here is quite easy. So that's what you're going to do. So I need you to be on your XAMPP folder. That is, go to your XAMPP. If you're using this, that is, you're using XAMPP control panel. So you go to your XAMPP folder and then htdocs. Now from there, you can run this command here, which basically is going to install, for example, that is my chat app. And let me change this to Laravel 11 app. So this command here basically is going to install for me the Laravel 11 app by just clicking enter. And then let's wait for it to install. Now, another thing you need to have is make sure you have Composer installed within your PC. So for example, when I type Composer here, so this is Composer. So you need to type Composer and then go to Composer. Then you need to have it installed. This is a dependency manager for PHP. So you need to have it installed because it is the one that installs dependencies for you so that you can use them within your PHP application. So I already have mine installed. So make sure you have it. So let's wait for this one as it installs. Now there's something you need to know here. Now, for example, when you inspect your terminal command here, you can see that once it gets installed, what is happening here is that within your database, there's a folder which is called database.sqlite. Remember, with Laravel 11, SQLite has been made as the default database, but you can change it, of course, to MySQL, or you can also integrate another database that you want to use. So you can see by default, it has already migrated. It has prepared the database and it has done migrations, but I will show you how we can change this one to MySQL and use MySQL as the default database. That is if you don't want to use SQLite. So let me navigate to this project and open it. Right, so I've navigated to Laravel 11 app and I can run code and then this dot sign to open that folder, and then I can close the previous. Right, so this is now Laravel 11 and we can go to our browser here. Since I'm using a virtual host, so this is Laravel 11 app.local, and this is what we have. So this is the interface for Laravel 11 and you can see it is good. It is looking well. The UI is great, and these are just different links that you can go to, for example, Laracast, Laravel News, and so forth. Now let's go back to the Laravel 11. Let's look at now let's understand the directory structure for Laravel 11. So we'll start with what we call the core folders, and the core folders is this. So the core folders, what we have here, we have several things. So for example, we have what we call the app. So the app folder here, let me just expand this. The app folder here is the one that defines, actually it is the heart of your application logic, and it has several things. It has the models. The models are the ones that define the database entities and their relationships. Then we have app, HTTP, and then we have controllers. Here is where you can handle HTTP requests and return responses. That is by creating a controller. We also have other folders that may be here, but they may not be here because Laravel 11 has been made slimmer, so the entire application has been made slimmer. So as your application grows, there are other folders and files that you can find here. So for example, we have services, that is repositories, etc. So you can use them for organizing your application logic. Now there's a file which has been made very important, and this is called bootstrap. So within bootstrap and then app.php. So this file here, what you can do with it is that you can register middleware here. For example, the middleware here you register is a global middleware, and then what will happen is that whenever any HTTP request is being made within your application, if you apply a middleware here, then this middleware is the first point of contact. Up here you can see we have what we call the web routes, of course, and then console.php routes, that is, and then we also have this auth/app which has been introduced in Laravel 11, and this is what it does. And what it does here, for example, when you come to your browser and type /app here, you can see here it is able to monitor the health of your application, and here you can see it is saying HTTP request received, response successfully registered with this milliseconds here. So basically it is just showing you the health, just from the word the health of your application. You can monitor using this health app. So in upcoming videos or in the future, I'll be able to talk about it, and in real-time projects when, of course, you are creating a real-time project. Now, what else do we have? We also have exceptions. So the exception folder, which, remember here we add app exceptions, and then of course inside that exception folder you could create different exceptions for your application. Now you can do it through this one here, whereby you can register the exception, of course, when you create that exception folder by running different commands that we are going to look at. All right, so that is it. So this this file here is very important, and it has been made important in Laravel 11. Now next we have is the config folder, and within the config folder here is that it holds all your project configuration files. So some of them you can see here. We have app.php. For example, this one will define the name, the app name, that is Laravel. You can always change it to whichever name that you want to change. We also have the app env, which is production, when the application goes live, debugging for detecting errors, and then of course the URL on the local side that is also rendered there, time zone of your application, and so many other things that you find within that folder. And then we also have the out.php, which you can create different guards. That is, you can create your different guards, for example, a user admin. And I've also done a tutorial on Laravel multiple authentication, whereby I did all this, whereby we were able to create authentication for user who is able to access his own dashboard, and then admin is also able to access his own dashboard. So I did that one, so you may want to go and check that video. Now next, these are just other config files which I do not want to go to. So now, in case you don't find for example, let's say now you don't find a config file that you want to use. So let me use git and close this one. So what will happen is that this is the command that you'll type. So php artisan, and then here this will be config, and then publish, like this. Now when you type php artisan config publish and then click enter, what will happen here, let's just close, let's expand this. Okay, so let's look at this. You can see now what will happen is when you type that command, it will ask you which configuration file would you like to publish. So for example, let's say the broadcasting was not published, then you would indicate that one. Let's say for example view was not published, then you indicate that one by typing indicating that is the configuration file that you want to. Now in case you want to publish all of them, you can repeat the same command and then add this flag sign here, which is all, and then what it will do, it will just return them back, just like the way when you observe Laravel 10, then you can see that all the config files were there by default, but so this command will return them back just like we had in Laravel 10. Right, so that is something you need to know about. All right, the other files that we have here is let's go back again. That we have here is the database, and the database is you can find it here. So the database folder, and then we have factories, and then after factories we have migrations, which are, for example, the ones that I just showed you at the start when you're installing Laravel. And then we also have seeders, and then that is the seeders, of course. So this is just common from the other Laravel frameworks. Now we have this was not there, this you'll not find it in any other Laravel apart from Laravel 11. So database.sqlite has been now introduced in Laravel 11, and as I just showed you, by default when you go to .env file, so .env file, let's go to this one here. You can see here, let's take out this one. You can see here what we have is by default we have SQLite, and then we have the rest. These ones have been commented out. So of course you can return this one to, for example, we can return this one to MySQL by just indicating MySQL there. And then here we'll uncomment this. Now let's say, for example, the database I want to have is Laravel 11 app. Then once I have that one, what we can do is access the command line. And then what I'll do here is I'll say PHP artisan migrate, and then it will ask me if, of course, this I want to create this one, and I'll type yes. And then you can see now when you come back here to, otherwise when you go to PHP my admin, you can see this database has been created. It should be Laravel. Yeah, this is the one. And of course, this is what gets created. All right. So, and I also noticed that when you look at your database and the tables that have been migrated, you can see we also have jobs. I think this file was not there before. When, for example, let's observe, let me find a project in Laravel 10, for example, my blog, which is Laravel 10. Yeah, so you can see by default, when I migrated this Laravel 10 table here, there's no jobs or job badges except these failed jobs. So basically what you can see here with Laravel 11 is that we also have that table which has been created. For example, job badges, yeah, so failed jobs, and of course it has now been, yeah, so you can see ID queue payloads. So these are some of the things that have been added in Laravel that come with Laravel 11. All right, so the other folder that is also important in our directory structure is the public folder. The public folder is the entry point of your application that is which is accessible over the web. And what it does is that it has what we call the index.php. Index.php, of course, this is now the one which is the entry point. In other words, when you run your Laravel application on the browser, this is the file that gets ran for the first time. Now, if you want to understand the MVC PHP, I've done a tutorial. I've done a course on this, and this course is on my Udemy, so you can access it over the Udemy, and I'll leave the link in the description box below. And what I've done with that video, I've talked about how to structure your PHP in terms of the model, view, and controllers. And of course, we dealt in that course, I dealt on index.php. We create a public folder, then index.php, we create routes, then routes which map controllers to methods, then methods, of course, to the URLs. So there's so much we did there. And also we also get even to create this vendor autoload.php, bootstrap app.php. We create them because remember, this framework has been created using the model view controller. So once you get to understand that course very well, the entire course very well on PHP MVC, then understanding Laravel would be just a walk in the park. So that is the public folder and is an entry point, as I've just described. It also has in other words, it stores compiled CSS, JavaScript images, and you can see this one through, we have public, and then of course you can come here and create a CSS folder, a JS folder, an images folder, and other assets that you want to use within your application. Now, the other folder is the resources, and the resources contains raw assets for your project. So here, for example, it houses the views which contain blade templates. So for example, we can see here, we have the view, and then the view here, for example, we have the welcome blade, which is this one here. You can see the welcome blade here. Is this one here. So that is the resources, the views. We also have CSS. So in other words, it contains also, for example, uncompiled, for example, JavaScript components, uncompiled CSS style sheets, for example. And you need to do your compilation through this folder here. So that's something you need to know. Then we also have the routes folder, and the routes folder is this one here, which has the web.php and then the console.php. Now, for example, the web.php typically defines the routes accessible over the web browser. Of course, now, for example, we can see here we are able to access the welcome, which is just returning the view welcome here. And of course, you can create other routes for our application as we begin creating our application. Now, another file which was within the routes folder is the api.php, which is not there by default. So for you to have it there, when you go to your command line here, and let me remove this one for now. So you can type this command here, which is php artisan, and then install, and then here you indicate API like that. So what it is going to do is going to install for you now, one of the things it is going to install, as you can see here, is the Laravel Santam, because now you also need to know that Laravel Santam is not here by default. So that is because when you're using the API, you may want to use the Laravel Santam. So it is not there by default. And you can see it has now been installed, and it asks for us the one new database migration has been published. Would you like to publish all the pending migrations? You click yes, and then of course it will create the personal access tokens. This one was there within Laravel 10, especially when we looked at the API development with Laravel 10. This is there by default, and then now you can see the Laravel Santam as API trait, which you need to add it within your user model, is here. So when you look at here, you can find now the api.php file has been added. You can see it is this one here. We can, for example, access the user, then we are able to request, for example, all the other file that we have is the storage folder, and the storage folder has the following. So when you come down here, you can access the storage folder, which is used for storing various generated files by your application. So for example, file uploads, cached data logs, and session files can be stored here. So for example, you already know about this since we have created several projects whereby we are able to create file uploads, of course, by storing them within the storage folder here. Now, other files that we have here is, for example, the .env file, which basically is used to store environmental files, variables that could consist of database credentials, API keys, and so forth. And of course, you can see, for example, we have our database connectivity here. We can also have session drivers for handling different things within our application. We can also set up the mailer here, for example, and so many other things. Yeah, so, and then we also have another file which is also important, which is called composer.json, which basically it manages project dependencies. You can install packages which you can use later within. For example, now you have installed Laravel Santam for API authentication and management, so and many other packages that you'll install when you are developing your application. Right, so that is the directory structure of your application. All right, now on the middleware. So on the middleware, we no longer have a dedicated directory in Laravel 11. So middlewares right now are part of the framework itself. So you can apply middleware to routes. So let's go ahead and do this. So for example, here we are going to create a custom middleware, and we are going to illustrate how middleware have changed within Laravel 11. So let me have that one like this. Now let me close this one. So what you're going to do is, the first thing you're going to do, you're going to create a middleware to authenticate the profiles within our application, just like the way I showed you in that demo app. So the first thing you're going to do here is I'm going to run this. So PHP artisan make, and then here we're going to have model, and then profile, and then here I'm going to have M. So what this is going to do, sorry, this is going to, did I type the correct? This should be PHP artisan make model. Yeah, that should be one word. All right, so we get to the profile table. Let me clear this. Let me check. Okay, so let me have this one like this. So what we have here is we have the profile table. We have the profile table like this. Do we have this? Yes. Okay, so we have it like this, and what you can do here, we are going to create several things. So one of them is going to be table string name, is like this, and then here we're going to have, for example, table string, but then this is going to be edge, and then here we're going to have table string. Sorry, table string, yeah, this is okay. And then here I'm going to have a phone number like this, and then we are going to have address, which is okay, and then I think that one is okay. All right, so name, age, phone number, and address. Now once we do that one, the next thing we need to do is to create, it's created, sorry, so we already have profile .php models. Remember, models are the ones which interact with your database. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to have a protected fillable, which is going to have all that I just created within my table. And then here you can come here and run the PHP artisan migrate, and then we have that table migrated. Now once we have that one, now remember I need to add data in that table, and of course we are not going to create a view which is going to enable us to add data within that table. So what is going to happen here is something simple. So what I'm going to do here is something simple. So what I'm going to do is say PHP artisan, then I'm going to have something like this. So PHP artisan make, and then factory, and then here we'll have profile factory like that. Then I click enter. So it's going to be created. So we can go to profile factory.php, and then what we're going to have here is on the return, I'm going to define what I need to have within my database. And of course, having this one is okay because you need a name, we need an age, phone number, then address like that. Right, so once we have that one, the next thing we need to do is to create a seeder, basically for the profile factory. So what I'm going to do here is, let me remove this. So here I'm going to say PHP artisan, and then I'm going to say make a seeder, and then this is going to be profile seeder like this, and then this is going to be created as follows. So when you go to the database, and then we go to databases, and then we go to migration, then seeders here, you can see this is what we have here. So this is the one that is going to be responsible for seeding our database, and what we need to indicate here is just the app model, then profile factory 10, and then create. So we're going to create 10 records, and the records we're going to create are these ones here. So 10 of them within 10 rows that are going to be created. So what we need to do here is to now run this command and clear this again, and then here we're going to run. Okay, so this is going to be db, and then seed, and then here I'm going to indicate the class that I need to run, which is this one here, like this, and then that is going to seed. So when you come to our table here, you need to come to which table? So this is Laravel 11 app. Then come here on the profiles. You can see this is what we have. So we have 10 records, as you can see, just different, the name, age, number, address, like that. All right, so once we have that one in set, the next thing we need to create is, of course, a controller. So a controller, actually you should not have removed this. So a controller basically is going to interact with our models, get the data from the database, and then pass it to the view so that it can be rendered on the browser. So that's what is happening. So PHP artisan make, and then of course here we're going to have controller, then here we're going to have profile controller like this, and then that is it. So once we have this one in set, we can come to, remember, controllers are created within this part here. The namespace, of course, is app.php, then controllers. Right, so once we have this, actually this controller, because you're going to install Laravel Breeze and it comes with a similar controller. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to change this controller to something different. So I'm going to add this one to my controller, and then later you'll see why I added my controller here instead of profile controller, right? So that there will not be any conflict. Now we can begin, and the first thing we need to do here is I'm going to have a simple function which is going to be public function, and then this is index this, and then inside there I'm going to have profiles, which is going to be equal to the model. In other words, I'm defining a variable, and this variable is going to get all the profiles which are within this database here, and then they are going to be stored within the profiles variable here. And then once it gets stored, I'm going to have a return statement which is going to say return view, and then inside there I'm going to have for the view, I'm going to name it as my profile, like this, my profile. And then here, instead of having compact profiles, what I'm going to have is something like this. Yeah, profiles, and then profiles like that. So what will happen is just the model will give us all the views from the database, return them to the variable profiles, and then pass it to the view. So the view name is going to be my profile. We can create it within the resources. So here I'm going to have, where is it? Yeah, so this is the one here. So here I'm going to create it, my profile .bled.php, like this. And then once I do that, we're going to have something simple. So for example, here I'm going to have an HTML. So within this HTML is going to have something like this. So this is what I'm going to have. I'm going to say display, that is so what we're going to have is display the user's profile information, like that. And then once we have that one, so the profile is the name, the age, the phone number, and the address. And what we're going to do here is that we're going to loop over the profile, that is the profile data, and display it. So basically this is what we're going to have here. So we're going to say profile as, let me use profile as, okay, profile as data is okay. So profile as data, and then of course the data is the one which is going to access all that we have within the table. So here this is should be phone number, not phone alone. Then of course down here we end the for each, like that. Now once we have that insert, what we are going to do here is that this is profiles. So here we returned this variable as profile, so we can't use only this should be profiles, because remember we are returning profiles here from the model, so we need to have profiles here, and then this could be profiles as profile, which is okay. It's okay. So profiles, they just forgot the S. Okay, so and this one is saved. So now once you are done with that one, we can come to our web.php. Then here where we have the route, we're going to have this get my profile. Then what I need to do is, instead of having this, I'm going to have that. Yeah, so we are returning my profile, then we are calling this profile controller class, and then of course, so another thing we need to do is to import this class, like that, and then we close that one. Okay, and then we save this one, and within the controller we also need to import the use model. We also need to have it. Let's see if we can also import this controller as well. Okay, so that is what we have. And then okay, so what we can do here is come here and access / profile. See if we are able to get, okay, so we are able to get all the profiles within our database. Right, now let's go ahead and now create the custom middleware here. Right, now to apply the custom middleware to our profile view, so this is what you're going to do. Now the first thing we're going to do is go to our terminal here. So within our terminal we clear this. Okay, and then here I'm going to type PHP artisan, and then this is going to be make middleware, and then the middleware is going to be ensure token is valid. Token is valid, and I think we are good to go. Now you can see when you do that is when the middleware directory is going to be created. So for example, when I navigate to ensure token is valid, you can see here is that this is now the directory which gets created, which was not there by default. So that's something you need to know. So this middleware is going to be a simple middleware which is going to do something simple. So inside it, I'm going to, just to have it something simple, I'm going to say token is equals to be request, not header, but this one is going to request for input. And then inside here, I'm going to pass token like this. Yeah. So what we are doing here is that we get token from the request. So that's what is happening. Now once you are done with that one, that is so the next thing here is to request, to say if token is not equal to my secret token, then return redirect instead of response. So return redirect, and then here we want to return with this, return this person with, so we have something like this. In other words, you are telling this person redirect to the home page, like that. So that's what is happening there. Okay, but if he passes the secret token, if he gives the secret token, which should be this one here, then the request would now go to in other words, the controller will now continue to render the view. So that's what is happening there. Now, once you have that done, we can come to the web.php. And within the web.php, remember this is our route so far that we have. So within this route so far, we can apply now the middleware to it. Now, there's something you need to know here, but before we come to that, let me just go ahead and apply this middleware, which we have just created. So the middleware here is going to be, ensure its token is valid class, like that. And of course, let's go ahead and also import that class. It should be something like that. Okay, so we have that one set. Now, how do we test this middleware so that we can ensure that now it is working? For example, you can see if we access my profile, we are redirected to home page because we need to give that secret token. So what we can do here, we can say and give a question mark here, and then say token is equal to, it should be my secret token. Let's just check again to ensure it's correct, and just copy it. Okay, then paste it here just to ensure. Okay, so this is okay, so I forgot something here. This should be, we are going to my profile, so this is /my profile. So this is the middleware that we have applied to. You can see we are able to access this because we are giving the correct token. But of course, if you try to give an incorrect token, then you'll be redirected to one page. Just a simple middleware. So this middleware is applied, it is applied on the route itself. So the route itself, and you can see this is where we applied it. But what if I remove this one like this, I remove this one, and then I went to bootstrap, that it should be app.php, this one here. Now what will happen is here we apply what we call the global middleware. So for example, if I came here and applied the global middleware, so what I'll do here is that I would have something like this. So I would have middleware, not middleware add, so it would be middleware append, like this. And then of course inside it I'll have something like this. So ensure token is valid, and then of course we close this one. Then we need to import this. Okay, so that's what we have. So what would happen here is that any middleware that you apply, you place it here is a global middleware, and it will be applied on all routes, including the welcome page here. So when you go to web.php, what you can see here, this middleware will also be applied on this route here. It will also be applied, of course, on this route here. So what will happen here, we'll have a lot of redirects. For example, even I try now to access the home page again, you can see there's be an error that will come here, and we are going to have what we call the redirects, and there are going to be many redirects. Why? Because the middleware is now being applied globally within your application, and you can learn about this one on middleware, for example, middleware groups. And then this should be somewhere here. Yeah, this is the one here. So this is the one I'm talking about here. So this will be applied on every HTTP request within your application, including the welcome HTTP request. So that's something you need to know. So whenever you apply middleware on your on your app.php, make sure that middleware is, of course, you're applying it when you're using it globally within your application. But if you want to use it within specific routes, then don't have this. Only include the middleware that you want to use. In other words, make sure you specify which middleware that you want to use globally. And of course, if you want to use it on the routes themselves, then you can just leave this one as it was before, and then just go ahead and let me save this one and then go to web, and then here we just return the way it was, just like that. So you can see here, if we do that one, then this one will now come back to normal. And of course, we can go ahead and do this one here, and we're able to access my profile just like we did before. Right, so that is on the middleware in Laravel 11. So let's look at middleware with Laravel Breeze. Now, what we created was the custom middleware, but what if now we are not using custom middleware? For example, we need to authenticate different parts of our application using the login and register. We can now do this one with something we call the Laravel Breeze, and that's what we are going to do here. So for example, here I type composer, then require Laravel/Breeze like this, and then here I'm going to type .dev, and then once I do that one, I click enter. Okay, let's just wait for it to install. Now, once you have that one installed, we can run this other command, php artisan breeze, and then here we'll have install like this. So let me select. So here I'm going to select our blade with Alpine. So this is it. And then, okay. Does this say, would you like dark mode support? Okay, so yeah, I can type yes. And then here is asking if I need the PHP unit or repaste. So, okay, so let me go with the, so the second one is 0. So the first one is 0, and then goes. Okay, so it is going with the paste. So let's just wait for it. Right, so we have this one installed. So now once you have that one, let me just clear all this. And what I'll need to do is let me run php artisan migrate in case there's anything that needs to be migrated. If there's none, we also have the two, that is these two. So let me also run them. Okay, now as we do that, we can also look at our, let me just wait for this. Okay, so we can look at our web, and you can see within our web, that's why I told you I needed the, even where is the other route? I think it has been taken away. We had my profile, but you can add it here. So what I can do is that, so I can add just that route here, which is should be, this one should be my profile, then index, and then we know we only have my profile only as the folder, so we just need to have not .index, but just like that. Okay, so that's what we have. All right, so that is what, so it's going to be my profile here like that. Now we can, now since we have this one installed, what we can do before we go further is, let me open another instance of the git bash here. And then once I do that, all right, so let's go ahead and investigate this. So let's go to, yeah, so let's come here. So we can, for example, go navigate to register. like this. Let's see. So we are brought to the register page. Right, so here let me just quickly register some name. All right, so this is what we have. So I've just been registered. You can navigate to profile just as I showed you from the demo app, and you can see these are the different, you can update your profile information, update password, delete account. Of course, this is being aided by when you go to your routes. You can see these are the two, for example, edit, update, and destroy. Now we can also, now my profile, when we navigate to my profile, remember now it has now been authenticated as well. Again, okay, so this is not found, so I need to import this class. Really, let's import all classes. That class is not been imported. And then, okay, so now it has been, but you can see now we needed to have the blade, the top blade, that is the top blade, the navigation blade. So what I can do is when you come to your layouts and then come to app blade, actually should be the app blade, we have profile, and then yeah, we have dashboard. So this dashboard here, we can copy this and then come to my profile, which is the blade file here. And what I'll do here is I'll take out all this HTML, including the body, and then I'll paste this, and then here I'll also remove this too, and then yeah, I'm going to have the app X layout. So what is going to happen is when I go to my profile, yeah, you can see this is now, it has this top thing here. So we can apply some stylings on this one here. So something like this. So this is the stylings that we're going to have. For example, when I paste this, basically this is just tailwind, because this comes as tailwind. So the stylings that I have here is tailwind. We set the container class, and then here we have grid of column 1, column 2, column 3, and then we give them a space of gap 6. And then of course we are looping over. Remember this, sorry, this is this was data, so profile data, and then this is data here. So we need to have it as something like this. However, it is going to, okay. So right, so here, so this is data, so this is okay, this one changing, this is profiles. So we need to have this one as this profiles, and then yeah, so that is it. Right, so let me just check this again. Okay, so this is what we have, and you can see now we are getting the profiles, and then they are looped over from the database, the table profiles. All right, so this is just something about introduction about Laravel 11. So in the upcoming videos, we shall look at more features in Laravel 11, such as Laravel Reverb, which is a tool which you can use to build real-time applications. So let's meet in the next video.